local news, and it has to do with the National Youth Games, which comes up in just a few weeks from now. But the venue of the 8th National Youth Games, the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba, is ready, according to a release from the Delta State government. You remember the 7th edition took place last year with virtually all the states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory in attendance. How challenging will it be to getting into, do I say, a refurbished Stephen Keshi Stadium?
For me, I think it should be something, of course, cheering because very cheering because for me, I think the organizers, they've done a lot to make sure that, they put up a new look this time around when it has to do with the facilities that the athletes, of course, would actually be participating in. For me, is a brand new stadium for what we're seeing at this point in time because we hear that some of the facilities that the athletes, of course, will be using, like the swimming pool and also the 2 indoor sport hall, they've been put, in a shape, and it's actually a very good one. And this actually, for me, is a good one because when you have the right people at the helm of affairs, of course, you definitely will get things right. The organizer of this one, talking about Solomon Ogba, who was the former sport commissioner down there, of course, in the state, of course, has been there for a very long time, and he knows what to do, to make sure that he give the state a befitting national youth game. And if you take a look at it, I think they've actually dot their I's and crossed their T's, and it's as a result of those who are at the aim of affairs knowing what to do at the right time. For me, I think the athletes have nothing to complain of. Last time, I think we heard of issue of athletes not having enough bed space, but this time I don't think, of course, we'll be getting that kind of news anymore. So it's a good one from what we're seeing at this point in time. I think at this point we're looking forward to have a very, very befitting national youth games.
8 National Youth Games are coming up in now a matter of days, next week to be precise, when athletes have been promised top-notch facility by the Delta State government. And of course, like you mentioned there, Solomon Ogba, one man who knows it all when it comes to local organization. In fact, continental, if you want to ask me, he has some continental experience as well. He's putting all of that together for the 8th Youth Sports Festival. And I'm sure the youths coming for this one next week will marvel at the quality of the facility made available by the Delta State government. Now, let's go to the ongoing Paralympic Games in Paris. Kingsley, Team Nigeria doesn't seem to return the kind of medals we expect, but after 8 days, we are seeing more Nigerians in the finals of most of the events in the powerlifting and Paralympics as well.
Yeah, at the age of the competition, we saw most of the athletes, putting up some impressive performance, but we're not able to get, to the medal zone, from what we're seeing. In the short put event, we saw Goodness Nwachuku. She put up a strong, performance, landing in the 4th, place. She couldn't also get, of course, to the medal zone. Was another struggling performance, of course, for her. And in the powerlifting as well, we saw Thomas Ukuri. He came close to finish in 5th place and also missed out on the medal zone. So it was not a very good outing for Team Nigeria on day 8 of the competition. And as it stands now, it looks like, the Paralympians, they've dropped in terms of performance. Now, this is not to be compared to the last time we saw them in Tokyo, where they were able to put up about 10 medals in total in that particular one. But as of day 8, they've only won just 2. A bronze medal in the
silver.
They won 2 medals, bronze in the badminton event, and then a silver medal as well in the powerlifting at this point in time. It's not a very good performance. By now, at least, we should be looking forward at least to like 8 to 10 medals, looking forward to surpass the previous record. But 2 medals in the 8, I tell you, not a very impressive performance. The 8 was another abysmal performance we saw from them.
While they're talking about powerlifting, reminds me that Thomas Ukuri came close but finished 5th. His best lift was 205 kg, and he went for the 212 kg on his final attempt, but unfortunately it was marked as a no lift. In the women's up to 50 kg class, we saw Bose Bejinde ended in the 7th place with her best lift of 100 kg. She started at 90 kg and moved up to 100, but couldn't complete her final attempt at 100 a final attempt of 118 kg. Venezuela's Sarati Fuentes broke the Paralympic record with a lift of 124 kg to win gold, while we saw China's Jing Jiang go home with silver, while Great Britain's Olivia Broom shared the same lift of 119 kg. Meanwhile, in the women's 400 meters T54 Heat 2, Nigeria's Hannah Babalula finished 7th with a time of 1 minute 0.1.3 seconds, missing out on a spot in the final. What could be happening to Team Nigeria? Is it that of preparation, or the athletes not meeting up against their counterparts from the other parts of the world?
I think for me, it actually boils down to preparation as well. Because when did the body, of course, how did they actually prepare this athlete? That's actually the big question. It was after the Olympic game. That's where we, of course, started hearing much, about the Paralympians, preparing. We heard they were able to camp, of course, in Germany in about, I think, 1 week before heading down to Paris for this particular one. For me, I don't think the preparation was top-notch. We don't prepare, for competitions like this. We don't prepare very well for competitions like this. Competitions like this, takes a lot of time. It takes more than a year, even 2 years, of course, to get yourself, prepared for. But we always, tend to prepare within 2-3 months, for a competition like this. And I think for me, that's why we've not seen the best, from the para-athlete this time around. Take a look at, our previous record. We were able to put up, some impressive performances, especially in powerlifting. But so far, so good. Day 8 of the competition, just one powerlifter was able to give us, a silver medal. If we would have even done better than that, if we have even gotten the best of preparation. So for me, I think at this point, from what we've seen, we've not prepared very well. And for me, the athlete as well, I think they've fallen short a little bit, because you take a look at the para-table tennis players, they all fell short apart from one Okunkole that is in the semi-final for his own event, at this point in time. We're also looking forward to see if he'll be able to deliver, of course, in the final as it is. So, for me, I think we've not gotten the best of preparation, and that's why we've seen our athletes, struggle. And the sport minister, John Owaneno, I think since he came in, I think just a year, and he has to take the team, of course, to the Olympic game. You won't blame him much, looking at the fact that he's not even a sportman. He was, even before being appointed as a sport minister, he wasn't into sport. So coming in, he's trying to see how he can place his feet right and probably do the right thing. So there's a lot, of course, at this point in time, a lot of lapses. And that's why we're seeing, this level of struggle for our athletes at the Olympic Games. So it's really not, cheering at all. But we hope, before the game, of course, comes to an end, which is about 3 to 4 days now, that we'll be able to rack at least 3 or 4 medals to add what we've gotten so far.
Well, we hope that the Paralympians all at Paris will do their best to redeem their, let's say, own image. Meanwhile, let's get to a more athletic story, and this one doesn't look cheering at all, because a Ugandan athlete, you remember how Chiptikei had died after her boyfriend set her on fire. Remember this athlete Kingsley? She was at the Olympic Games. She ran the marathon event for Uganda, but only yesterday we were told that she passed on after her boyfriend doused her with petrol and set her, alight with fire, and injuries of that could not be completely mitigated, and she had now passed on. What could be dusted as this?
It's very, very sad, very, very disappointing that this was actually done by her boyfriend. And of course, when you take a look at it, I think she is the third woman to be killed in Kenya in terms of domestic violence.
Sports lady, right?
Sport lady to be killed in Kenya in terms of domestic violence. And I think if you take a look at it, Kenyans, they've always been a victim of all of this, when it has to do with, treating women in a way that is not, pardonable at all. And for me, it's really, really a sad one for an athlete who, of course, is like a treasure to our country, Uganda, putting up a little bit of a feat, of course, in the Olympic game. Though she didn't actually come top, I think she finished 44th in the Olympic game in the long distance race, of course, that she participated in. She was, of course, an athlete that was really valued, down there in Uganda. But from what we've seen, I think there was a little bit of issue they had between her and her boyfriend, and the man has to go all the way in setting her ablaze. For me, it's a very, very disappointing one. I think at this point, the Kenyan government should look into this, because why is it that their men are always, prone to abusing or, putting up, yes, their women? It's not a very good treatment at all. So for me, it's really not a very good one. And we hear that investigation, are on at this point in time to actually know the reason why the boyfriend went all the way, of course, to set her ablaze. Really, really, it's a huge disappointment and a huge loss as well for Uganda.
Huge loss for Uganda, and of course the rest of Africa as well. This is not good. She was really, really at her prime. Like we mentioned, she was just a few days away after the Olympic Games, and you won't think that she should have enough rest ahead of other world championship in marathon. Now she is no more. Our heart goes out to the family, and I hope that the authorities in Kenya will ensure that, in Uganda, will ensure that, do I say, justice is done to this lady who has passed on. Well, let's quickly now go to tennis. And talking about tennis reminds me that the U.S. Open is getting to the feverish pitch. We just have a few days to the end of the U.S. Open. In fact, the finals, as the finalists have emerged, especially in the female category. We now know that Jessica Pegula will be in the final against Arina Sabalenka. But first, let's start with before we get to Sabalenka, the number 2 seed. Let's look at, well, we could just start with her. 6-3, 7-6, straight set victory for her over her opponent, Emma Navarro from the United States of America. It's always difficult to play against the American on an American turf.
Yeah.
The fans out there in Flushing Meadows were clearly partisan. But Arina Sabalenka, world number 2, had answers to what was going on in the stands.
Yeah, definitely. She has answers to what was going on in the stand, because this is a terrain she's very familiar, with. She's familiar with the noise. She's familiar with the court. So no matter what comes up, she's had the ability to...
Talking about the noise, in a quarter-final match, when she was asked about what to expect in the semi-final against, an American. She was like trying to buy over the crowd by saying that she was going to buy
drinks.
buy drinks. And it was an interviewer was like, "We buy drinks for all of these thousands of people in this." And but this was not enough. Her wooing the fans with the drink, it was not enough. They still was against her in the semi-final, and they made it just the same in the final as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, that was a very good spirit, of course, from her, being able to withstand all of those challenges, coming from the fans, of course, in the stand. And that's to tell you that Arina Sabalenka is one lady, of course, that, that has what it takes at any point, at any stage, to be able to, of course, overshadow whatever comes our way. Was really a very impressive encounter for her against Emma Navarro. And for me, it's actually a good one, seeing her getting to the U.S. Open final once again. She was there last year, and now she's there once again. That should show you how dogged and how she's actually kept, her game, up high and down there. So for me, I think it's been a very good spirit from her so far. She's in the final, and she's going to face another American as well. So
yeah, talking about another American, it looks very difficult. Jessica Pegula.
Yeah.
Pegula, came from a set down last night, 1-6, and was able to overpower our opponent Muchikova by 6-4, 6-4 in the last 2 sets, and book a spot in the final of this year's U.S. Open. Jessica Pegula, she's from New York, and this U.S. Open is taking place in New York. So I can imagine the pressure, from the fans, on Arina Sabalenka, the world number 2. But now it will be world number 2 against world number 6, Jessica Pegula from the United States of America.
Yes, I'm really happy for Jessica Pegula first, because, take a look at how she struggled for some years now. It's been difficult for her to get past the quarterfinal of a Grand Slam for some years now. But she actually put up a very impressive performance this time, taking world number 1, Iga Swiatek, taking her down in the quarterfinal and heading down to the semi-final, and was able to push down to the final. That's to show you how improved Jessica Pegula, of course, has been, especially in this particular U.S. Open. I think there's something so special about the Americans in this particular U.S. Open. You see them, of course, pushing up down to the semi-final. We saw Emma Navarro and Jessica Pegula. Even in the male category, the likes of Taylor Fritz and Francis Tefil are into the semi-final as well. So I think the Americans are very much ready this time for the U.S. Open. And for Jessica Pegula, impressive performance, of course, we've seen from her this particular one. And getting down to the final against Aryna Sabalenka, who is looking forward, of course, to get this one. I think for me, it's going to be a very tough one for Jessica Pegula. But, upset are bound to happen. We can see her take up this one. But with the way Aryna Sabalenka has been playing so far, I think she really have to bring up her A game if she wants to get this one done. So we understand that the fans, of course, will be at her back. The fans will give her that support, that cheering, and the noise, of course. We understand what will happen to Aryna Sabalenka on the court on the final. But I think with what we've seen from Sabalenka as well, being able to withstand the noise even in the semi-final against Navarro, and for the fact that she's used to this particular ground, I think she would be able to pull through. But it's left for Jessica Pegula to bring up her A game and see what she can be able to do with the fan support.
Well, the Americans are really, really hopeful. They are talking about Pegula. Her husband, we saw him in the stands yesterday and last night, and but she's been in excellent form. She's won 15 out of 16 of her last matches. That's the kind of form you take. She took it down to world number one, Iga Swiatek. She will now. You think it will be easy for her to take world number two and conquer of world number one and world number two?
I think if she does that, it will be an incredible one, for her, and also an incredible season. Ending the season in a very, very remarkable way, taking world number one down and world number two. And I think she knows what is at stake, for her at this point in time. With the fact that, of course, she has the support of the fans, I think that will be a morale booster for Jessica Pegula in this particular one. So for me, I think she has what it takes. If you take a look at her form of recent and how she's been able to put up her game, I definitely want to give it up to her that she has what it takes to challenge world number two, Aryna Sabalenka, in this particular one. So I think we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed and see what comes up this weekend. Jessica Pegula, this is her time. This is her moment. I think she have to make sure she uses both hands to grab this opportunity because we don't know when it will come again.
Well, something interesting happening here. We see an American, in the final of the female, that's a version of the U.S. Open for this year, and we will have to see another American as well in the male version.
Yeah.
But tonight, we want to see who gets it. Will it be Jack Draper or it will be Jannik Sinner? It promises to be very thrilling. We've seen Jack Draper play excellent so far. He's not dropped a set.
Yeah.
But for coming up against world number one, Jannik Sinner from the Italy, do you think this will be the last bus stop for for the man from Britain, the British champion?
It might be because take a look at it, but I think there's something behind Jack Draper. There's something giving him this inspiration. If you take a look at it, since 2012, it is the first time that a British player is getting to the final of a Grand Slam. So I think the man might just be inspired with that. The last time we saw a British player in the final of a Grand Slam was Andy Murray. I think that was in 2012. But since then, we've never seen any British player. So I think the man might just be inspired with that record and see what to do against world number one, Jannik Sinner. But for Jannik Sinner on his part, he's trying to silence his critics, looking at the fact that, everyone was actually saying that tennis organizers gave him an executive treatment when he was actually being probed of taking a prohibited substance. So I think he's trying to silence his critics with this level of performance we're seeing now at the US Open. I think the man will not want to relent. Looking at how the year has been for him, he will want to make sure he take up this one. So against Jack Draper on paper, definitely you want to give it to Jannik Sinner, but of course upset are bound to happen. Can Jack Draper, of course, put up that British strength once again in this one? We'll just have to see how this one go. But for me, I think it might probably be an easy pass for Yannick Sinner.
Yannick Sinner, number one, looking at getting to the final of the U.S. Open for 2024. And we talked about, Americans being in the final of both the male and female of the 2024 edition of the U.S. Open. Tomorrow, we will see one of them get to the final. Will it be Francis Tiafoe, or it will be Taylor Fritz? We've seen excellent game from these two Americans so far. Which of them do you think will get to the final against either Yannick Sinner or his opponent?
Difficult to call between both players, but I think I want to really give it up to Taylor Fritz. I think he's also been very fantastic. Same as Francis Tiafoe. It's been a very long time, of course. We actually saw both players at this stage of the competition. And I think for me, they have what it takes, of course, to be able to pull through. Both players are Americans, and they will just the fans, of course, will be supporting both. The fans will be giving them the support. So I don't know who the fans will be supporting, but whichever way it comes, I think both players have what it takes. We'll just have to keep our fingers crossed and see, of course, which of them will go through at the end of the day.
Well, for the Americans, they will be happy because at least there will be an American in the final of the U.S. Open for a long time now. We've never seen that happen, and I think it will be cheering to see if an American can even lift it this year. On our program, Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition, this will definitely be a major feature of who gets it at the end of the day, especially in the male category, where action will be between at least an American in the male and female edition. Let's take a break. When we return from a break, we'll get to football. It is qualifiers for the Nations Cup across Africa, and there's been a big disaster. Yes, Black Stars of Ghana have lost at home, and of course the fans didn't take it kindly at all. When we